A person arrives at a point in life where they know, with a deep and unshakable certainty, that they are meant for more. This is that point. This audiobook is their invitation to awaken untapped strengths and step into a higher version of themselves. What follows is not merely to be read, but to be absorbed. Before beginning, listeners are invited to share in the comments where they're listening from and one thing they're having a hard time with regarding mindset. It's inspiring to see people from all over the world working through similar challenges together. You can simply listen to this audiobook and let the words flow, or read along with the text on screen for a deeper, more focused experience. Let's begin. A man hears a voice in the quiet of his own mind. It is not a loud voice, but it is a persistent one. It tells him that the life he is living is not the full measure of the life he could live. He tries to dismiss it as imagination, but it returns. He tries to bury it in work, in noise, in responsibility, but it remains. It is the whisper of his own potential, and it will not be silenced. This is the central fact of a truly successful life. A man must first become dissatisfied with his present circumstances before he can change them. He must feel that inner itch, that divine discontent, that tells him he is off course from his true destination. He knows, in his heart of hearts, that he possesses talents that lie dormant, dreams that lie unfulfilled, a capacity for joy and achievement that is largely untapped. This feeling is not his curse. It is his awakening. He begins to understand that everything around him, everything he calls his life, was first a thought in someone's mind. The chair he sits in, the home he lives in, the car he drives, all were once just ideas, pictures in the mind of a person who believed they could bring them into reality. And he realizes a profound truth. His own outer world is nothing more than the physical manifestation of his inner world. It is the printout of his most dominant thoughts. If he wishes to change the printout, he must first change the program. He must change his thinking. The person who understands this has taken the first step on the greatest journey a human being can undertake. He is no longer a victim of his circumstances. He is the architect of them. He sees his past not as a chain that binds him, but as a school that has taught him. Every failure becomes a lesson. Every setback becomes a setup for a greater comeback. He knows that adversity is not the enemy of his dream. It is the raw material from which the dream is forged. It is the fire that tempers the steel of his character. He starts to look at the world through new eyes. He sees that the path to his dreams is laid brick by brick with the decisions he makes every single day. He knows that when he chooses discipline over comfort, he is laying a brick. When he chooses learning over entertainment, he is laying a brick. When he chooses to persist in the face of discouragement, he is laying a brick. He is building his own road to a predetermined destination, and he knows, with every fiber of his being, that he is the only one who can build it. Chapter 1. The Catalyst of Discontent. Why your frustration is a gift. A person feels a restless energy within himself. He looks at his life, and he feels a sense that something is missing. He is not where he thought he would be. He is capable of more. He was meant for more. This feeling, this frustration, is the most important signal he will ever receive. It is the catalyst for all growth. He has been taught to believe that contentment is the highest goal, but the man who is content with mediocrity will never achieve excellence. His dissatisfaction is the fuel for his engine. It is the energy that will push him out of a comfortable chair and into the arena of his life. He understands that this ache for something more is not a sign of failure, a sign of life. It is the voice of his potential, and it will not let him rest. It will not let him settle. Think of a seed in the ground. That seed does not find its dark, cold environment to be comfortable. It feels the pressure of the earth around it. It feels the confinement of its own shell, and that very discomfort is what triggers its magnificent transformation. It uses the pressure to crack itself open. It pushes through the darkness, reaching for a light it has never seen but knows must be there. A man is that seed. His frustration is the pressure that forces him to grow. It is the very thing that compels him to reach for his own light. He learns to stop resisting this feeling. He learns to welcome it. He knows that when he feels that familiar ache of discontent, it means he is on the verge of a breakthrough. It means his old self is becoming too small for the new vision he holds in his mind. The shell of his former limitations is cracking, and the new man is ready to emerge. He gives thanks for this feeling. He recognizes it as his guide, his internal compass, pointing him always in the direction of his growth. From this day forward, he makes a decision. He will no longer see his frustrations as obstacles. He will see them as invitations. An invitation to become stronger, an invitation to become smarter, an invitation to become more resilient. He knows that the path to everything he has ever wanted is lined with these very challenges. They are not blocking his path, they are the path, and he walks it with a new understanding, a new power, because he knows that every step is taking him closer to the man he was destined to become. Chapter 2. The Architect of Your Reality, How Your Thoughts Build Your World. A man walks through his day, and he believes he is simply reacting to the world around him. The traffic makes him angry. The weather affects his mood. The actions of other people dictate his happiness. He is a leaf blown by the wind of external circumstance. But then, he learns a secret so profound, it changes everything. He discovers that he is not the leaf, he is the wind. He is not the effect, he is the cause. His world is not happening to him. It is happening because of him. It is being projected outward from the inner world of his thoughts. He is, in every sense of the word, the architect of his own reality. He comes to understand that his mind is a garden. Whatever seeds he plants within it, and consistently tends to, will inevitably grow into the landscape of his life. If he plants seeds of lack and limitation, he will harvest a crop of struggle. If he plants seeds of abundance and possibility, he will harvest a crop of opportunity. This is not mystical thinking. It is the fundamental law of cause and effect applied to the human mind. He realizes that his most dominant thoughts, those he dwells upon with feeling and consistency, possess a magnetic force. They attract their physical equivalent into his life. A person who constantly thinks about debt and lack is engaging in a powerful act of creation. He is using his creative energy to attract more debt and more lack. But the person who shifts his thinking to wealth and opportunity, who holds that image in his mind with conviction, sets in motion an invisible force that begins to arrange circumstances, people, and ideas to bring that image into physical form. He knows that his outer world is nothing more than a mirror, reflecting back to him the contents of his own consciousness. So he takes command of his thinking. He becomes the vigilant gatekeeper of his own mind. He refuses to entertain thoughts of fear, of doubt, of failure. He understands that to do so is to literally build a prison for himself, one thought at a time. Instead, he deliberately chooses his thoughts. He selects them with the care of a master architect selecting the finest materials for a cathedral. He thinks about what he wants, and he refuses to think about what he does not want. He knows that by doing this, day after day, he is drawing the blueprint of his future. He is building a new world, from the inside out. Chapter 3. The Vision That Pulls You, Crafting a Compelling Future. A person finds himself drifting through life, moving from one task to the next with no clear direction. He is busy, but he is not purposeful. He is active, but he is not progressing. Then, he makes a discovery. He learns that all achievement is first a mental achievement. Before a skyscraper can touch the sky, it must exist in detailed blueprint form, in the mind of the architect. Before a journey can be undertaken, a destination must be chosen. A man without a clear, compelling vision for his future is like a ship without a rudder. He will drift aimlessly and eventually run aground. But the man who crafts a vision, who paints a vivid and detailed mental picture of the life he intends to live, sets in motion a power that is almost unstoppable. This vision becomes the magnetic north of his existence. It pulls him forward. It gives meaning to his daily actions. It transforms work into a mission and obstacles into stepping stones. He knows exactly what he is building, and so every decision, every action, is measured against that blueprint. He creates his vision with specificity. He does not simply say, "I want to be successful." He defines what success looks like, feels like, sounds like. He sees the environment he will live in. He feels the emotions of that accomplishment. He writes it down. He reviews it. He lives in the feeling of the wish fulfilled, as if his dream were already a present reality. This is not daydreaming. This is the most practical work a person can ever do. This act of mental creation sends a command to the subconscious mind, that immense power within him. The subconscious mind, whose function is to bring into reality what the conscious mind dictates, accepts this vision as its instruction manual. It then begins to work tirelessly, day and night, organizing his resources, sharpening his skills, and guiding his intuition to bring that vision into physical form. He finds himself having ideas he never had before. He meets people he needed to meet. He stumbles upon opportunities that seem like luck to others, but he knows they are the direct result of the vision he holds in his mind. His vision is not a far-off fantasy. It is a reality in its intermediate stage. He is living his way into it, one faithful thought, one decisive action at a time. Chapter 4. The Alchemy of Action, Turning Your Ideas into Reality. A man can have the most beautiful blueprint for a cathedral ever conceived. He can study it for hours, admire its lines, and feel the inspiration it brings. But until the first stone is laid, that cathedral remains a fantasy. It exists only in the realm of ideas. So it is with a person's dreams. A vision without action is merely a hallucination. It is in the doing, in the persistent, consistent taking of steps, that the magic happens. This is the alchemy of action, the process of turning the lead of a good idea into the gold of a tangible result. He understands that thinking is the beginning, but action is the fulfillment. The world does not pay you for what you know. It pays you for what you do with what you know. Knowledge is potential power. It only becomes power when it is applied, so he becomes a person of action. He knows that motivation does not come first, and action second. It is almost always the other way around. Action comes first, and the motivation, the confidence, the momentum, follows as a direct result. He does not wait for the perfect moment, because he knows the perfect moment is a myth. He starts where he is, with what he has. He takes the first step, however small. That first step is a signal to the universe, and to his own mind, that he is serious, that he is committed, that the dream is now leaving the station. He breaks his grand vision down into small, manageable, daily actions. He does not focus on the entire mountain he must climb. He focuses only on the next step in front of him, and he takes that step, then the next, and the next. He makes a contract with himself that he will do something, however insignificant it may seem, every single day that moves him toward his dream. This daily discipline, this relentless forward pressure, creates a compound effect. Small, seemingly insignificant actions, repeated over time, create results that are staggering in their magnitude. A single drop of water is powerless. But many drops, consistently falling in the same place, can carve a canyon through solid rock. He is those drops of water. His consistent action is the force that will carve the canyon of his destiny. He knows that there will be days when he does not feel like taking action. On those days, he acts anyway. He understands that his feelings are fickle and unreliable, but his commitment is not. He acts out of commitment, not out of fleeting emotion, and in doing so, he forges a character of steel and a life of gold. Chapter 5. The Invitation of Adversity. How Challenges Forge Your Strength. Every person who sets out to achieve a worthy goal will meet with adversity. He will face obstacles. He will encounter setbacks. He will experience failure. This is not a sign that he is on the wrong path. In fact, it is the clearest possible sign that he is on the right one. Adversity is not a locked door barring his entrance. It is an invitation to grow strong enough to kick it down. He comes to see his challenges as his personal trainers. They are not there to break him. They are there to build him. A weightlifter does not build muscle by lifting feathers. He builds muscle by straining against a resistance that forces his body to adapt, to become stronger. In the same way, a person builds strength of character, resilience, and wisdom by straining against the resistance of life's challenges. He would never become the person capable of holding his dream without having been tempered in the fire of adversity. The dream itself requires a new version of him, and adversity is the process that creates that new version. He learns to reframe every problem, every setback. He stops asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and starts asking, "What is this trying to teach me? How is this preparing me for my future?" In every difficulty, he looks for the seed of an equivalent or greater benefit. He knows it is always there. A failed business venture teaches him lessons he could have learned no other way. A heartbreak opens him to a deeper capacity for love and understanding. A financial loss teaches him the true principles of wealth. He does not curse the storm. He learns to sail in a new way. He understands that the path of least resistance makes for crooked rivers and weak men. The path of greatest resistance, the path that runs straight through the center of his fears and challenges, is the path that makes for a straight course and a strong character. He welcomes the struggle. He knows that on the other side of it is a version of himself he could not have otherwise met. He is being forged, and he willingly submits to the fire, because he knows what is being created. A man of unshakable power and purpose. Chapter 6. The Power of the Mastermind. The Alliance of Growth. No great achievement was ever accomplished by a person acting alone. Every person who has ever done anything significant has stood on the shoulders of others, has drawn strength from a team, has been guided by a mentor, or has been supported by a community. A man comes to realize that his own mind, while powerful, has limitations. But when he connects his mind with the mind of another like-minded person, a third, invisible mind is created. This is the mastermind, an alliance of knowledge, energy, and support that is far greater than the sum of its parts. He understands that he must deliberately and consciously build his own mastermind alliance. He seeks out people who are on a similar path of growth. He looks for those who possess a positive mental attitude, who are committed to their own development, and who are willing to offer encouragement and honest feedback. He distances himself from the naysayers and the dream stealers, those who would pour the cold water of their own limitations onto the fire of his ambition. Their influence is toxic to his growth. Instead, he surrounds himself, both in person and through the books he reads and the audio he listens to, with the minds of those who inspire him, who challenge him, and who show him what is possible. In this circle of growth, ideas are cross-pollinated. One person's strength compensates for another's weakness. Encouragement is freely given when motivation wanes. Accountability is maintained. He finds that when he shares his vision with this trusted alliance, it becomes more real. It gains energy and momentum. The collective belief of the group reinforces his own belief, pushing him through doubts he might not have overcome alone. He is no longer a lone warrior fighting a solitary battle. He is part of a legion, a tribe of achievers, moving forward together. He gives to this alliance as much as he receives. He becomes a source of encouragement and ideas for others. In lifting them, he finds himself lifted. He knows that his network is indeed his net worth, not just in financial terms, but in terms of happiness, growth, and the ultimate achievement of his most cherished goals. Chapter 7. The Discipline of Decision. Choosing your future now. A person's destiny is not a matter of chance. It is a matter of choice. It is not a thing to be waited for. It is a thing to be decided. The man who understands this takes full responsibility for his life. He stops blaming his circumstances, his upbringing, his boss, or the economy. He sees that at every moment, he is at a crossroads. The path he is on today is the result of the decisions he made yesterday. The path he will be on tomorrow is being determined by the decisions he makes today. He knows that indecision is itself a decision to let outside forces choose for him. And so he becomes a master of decision. He makes decisions quickly and firmly. He gathers the necessary information, of course, but he does not fall into the trap of analysis paralysis. He understands that a good plan executed today is far better than a perfect plan executed someday. Once a decision is made, he ceases to worry about it. He puts all of his energy into making that decision right. He knows that the universe bends to a determined will. When a person commits fully to a course of action, providence moves too. All sorts of things occur to help him that would never otherwise have occurred. He moves from being a passive passenger on the ship of his life to being the captain at the helm. He steers. He chooses the direction. When he hits a storm, he does not abandon the ship. He adjusts the sails. He makes a new decision. This discipline of decision applies to the small things as well as the large. He decides to get up early. He decides to read instead of watch television. He decides to work on his plan for an hour each day. These small daily decisions are the bricks that build the edifice of his character and his future. They are the practice ground for the big decisions. A man who has disciplined himself to make the right small choices will find it natural and easy to make the right large ones. He realizes that his power to choose is his greatest power. It is the gift that allows him to shape his reality. He uses it wisely, deliberately, and courageously, knowing that each decision is a brushstroke on the canvas of his life. Chapter 8. The Law of Compensation. How your value dictates your reward. A man often looks at the successful people in the world and wonders what secret they possess. He sees their wealth, their influence, their achievements, and he may attribute it to luck or to connections. But then he learns the timeless law of compensation, and everything becomes clear. This law states that a person's income, and indeed his rewards in every area of life, will be directly proportional to the value he provides to the marketplace. In its simplest terms, you get paid for the value you deliver. The world will pay you exactly what you are worth, not a penny more and not a penny less. He understands that if he wants to increase his rewards, he must first increase his value. He must become more. He must know more. He must do more. He must be more. He stops focusing on the money and starts focusing on the service. How can he serve more people? How can he solve a bigger problem? How can he add greater value to his company, his customers, his community? He invests in himself relentlessly. He becomes a lifelong student of his craft, his industry, and of human potential. He reads, he takes courses, he attends seminars, he learns new skills. He understands that his ability to earn is directly tied to his ability to learn. He is not an employee selling his time, he is an asset delivering a result. He looks for ways to go the extra mile, to do more than he is paid for. He knows that this extra effort, this added value, is like money in the bank of his future. It may not be repaid immediately, but the law of compensation is infallible. It will be repaid with interest. He stops seeing himself as a victim of an unfair system and sees himself as a controller of his own value. If he is not being compensated enough, he does not get angry at his employer. He gets to work on himself. He makes himself so valuable that he becomes indispensable. The law then must compensate him accordingly. He realizes that true wealth is not about what you have, but about what you are. And when you become a person of immense value, the material rewards will follow as surely as night follows day. Chapter 9. The Courage to Begin Again. Why failure is feedback. Every person who strives for something great will experience what the world calls failure. He will try, and he will miss the mark. He will start, and he will stumble. The average person sees this as the final verdict. He takes it personally. He decides, I am a failure, and he gives up. But the person on the path to conscious creation sees failure in an entirely different light. He sees it not as a brick wall, but as a signpost. It is feedback. It is life's way of saying, not that way, try this way. Failure is an essential part of the learning process. Thomas Edison did not fail 10,000 times to invent the light bulb. He found 10,000 ways that did not work. Each so-called failure was a piece of essential data that brought him closer to the solution. A man must cultivate this same attitude. He must have the courage to begin again, no matter how many times he has been set back. He knows that success is not the absence of failure. It is the persistence through failure. It is refusing to quit. The only true failure is the failure to try again. He analyzes his setbacks with a cool, detached mind. He asks himself, what worked? What did not work? What did I learn? How will I do it differently next time? He extracts the lesson from the experience, and then he lets the negative emotion go. He does not carry the baggage of past failures into his future attempts. He travels light. This resilience, this ability to bounce back, is one of the most critical qualities he can develop. It is more important than talent, more important than education. The world is full of talented and educated failures. The world belongs to those who persist. He knows that every time he gets back up after being knocked down, he is building a reputation with himself. He is proving his own mettle. He is building a track record of resilience that will serve him for the rest of his life. He understands that the path to his dream is not a straight line. It is a zigzag. It is a series of course corrections. And each time he corrects his course based on the feedback of a setback, he is aligning himself more perfectly with his ultimate destination. Chapter 10. The Echo in Eternity. Living a life of meaning and legacy. A person reaches a point where he begins to think beyond his immediate desires. He starts to think about his legacy. He asks himself a profound question. When I am gone, what will I leave behind? What will be the echo of my life in eternity? This is the mark of a mature consciousness. He realizes that a life lived solely for oneself is a small life, a shrinking life. But a life lived in service to something greater than oneself is an expanding life. A life of true meaning and lasting impact. He understands that his greatest fulfillment will not come from what he gets, but from what he becomes and what he gives. He starts to think in terms of contribution. How can he use his unique talents, his hard-won wisdom, his resources, to make a positive difference in the lives of others? He sees that his own journey of growth was not just for his own benefit. It was to prepare him to be of greater service to the world. He becomes a lighthouse, not a spotlight. A spotlight shines on itself, demanding attention. A lighthouse stands strong and tall, and by its own nature, it shines its beam far out into the darkness, guiding others, warning them of danger, and showing them the way to safe harbor. He strives to be a lighthouse. He knows that his story, his struggles, and his triumphs can become a source of hope and inspiration for someone else. He begins to plant trees under whose shade he knows he will never sit. He does the work that may not bear fruit in his lifetime, but that will benefit generations to come. This is the final stage of the unlocked mind. It is the understanding that we are all connected. Your growth is not just for you. It is for all of us. The wealth you create, the love you cultivate, the knowledge you gain, the freedom you achieve when shared, it raises the tide for all humanity. He lives his life with this expanded perspective. He knows that his time here is limited, but his impact can be eternal. And so he goes about his days, no longer just building a life for himself, but crafting a legacy that will echo long after he is gone. He has found his purpose. He has unlocked his mind. And in doing so, he has become a conscious creator of a better world.